Welcome to all you who are watching live. I really appreciate your support. And on this Tuesday, I've got out, these are all mostly golden brand paint. And I've got out the Indian yellow, yellow ochre, cad yellow light. I've kind of, you can see I've labeled them, but because this is all wet, and underneath here, this is one of those stay wet palettes, so I'll just show you, there's like that sponge underneath, so the ink kind of spread. But I've got Viridian down here, so if this looks a lot darker, it's because it's sap. And I just put out some green gold, it's called green gold. And then I've got cobalt, ultramarine blue, brown oxide, red oxide. And then in the corner here, I put out some of this liquid glazing medium. So if you're wondering what that is, and of course I have the usual, I use this Liquitex titanium white, and I have some of that black out there. So I've got all these, got everything all set up, and let me just put my AirPods in so you have a bit clearer. Yeah, that's probably better. I don't know why I forgot that, but there's always something. And now I'm just going to get there, in case my dog barks, I'm shutting the door. So to start off, I've got, let's just see if I can put this so you can see it a bit. No, it's always hard to fit everything in the screen. But anyhow, I'm going to just start by, I want to just put some kind of a neutral down. So I'm going to mix some ultramarine blue and some of this transparent brown oxide. And I want to just do a little bit of this glazing medium in there. And this will kind of give it a gray look. So I'm looking at my reference, and this is all kind of going to be exposed here, but I really like that. Kind of make it look a little more modern. I want to just get something, oops, I didn't realize I had so much blue, so I'm just going to mix a little more of the brown oxide in, and that'll kind of gray it down a bit. And I'm going to use some more of that liquid medium. The liquid medium is great because it doesn't break down the paint. It's what the paint's kind of made up of. So you don't, if you use water, the water just kind of, it just breaks the paint down. And then every layer you put on top can start to kind of peel off the canvas actually. So I'm going to leave the area where the pink flowers are going. I'm going to leave those kind of clear. And I'm just going to, because I don't have time to let it dry, I'm just going to kind of use a paper towel like I would with my oil paint and just sort of wipe it off a bit. And plus I kind of like the I like the scratchy marks that it makes, because later you never know, you might leave that and then it just sort of stays and you keep it, you know, because it just works. So I've got all these paper towels everywhere here. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is to make it a little easier, sometimes what I'll do is I'll just start painting in all the peonies, and but then to show how I go about it, I'm gonna just draw some of them in for you. So I'll just use a little bit of this brown oxide, and I could use a little bit of this quinacridone red just to start getting some of that pink in there. And I'll show you again what I'm looking at here. So if you're just joined, we're painting these pink peonies. So I'm gonna kind of just try to squish them into the view there. So I like how it's kind of cropped. I'm gonna just start by drawing kind of one there, and I'm just going to use, for this I'll use a little bit of water. And then you've got this other one coming down here. And then there's all these little ones kind of going up here. And those ones are in kind of a nice off-white color. So I'm just kind of, while you're sketching in and looking at your reference photo, you kind of want to just see how much negative space, you know, you're leaving, because you want that canvas space there, I feel. Well, I do, so I can show some of those leaves dangling down, and I can have fun with kind of the drama of these big flowers. So I'm just gonna keep putting in sort of where there's some of those pink flowers there, and then there's one kind of hanging down here. And then there's a bunch of green coming out. And then there's like, so I love that there's these big flowers, and then there's the little flowers, and then I want to leave room for all the green there. So I feel like that's a kind of going to be a good composition there. So I'm going to now go and get back to my larger brush, and I'm going to get some of this pink, and I can block in this. It's actually quinacridone red, and it makes a really nice, when you mix it with white, it makes a really nice pink color. And if you get a little glazing medium, and you can kind of put it on with that, and then you get that transparency of the white canvas coming through. And later on, you'll see how I will leave that showing in some places, because you get a really bright pink that way. And if it was oil paint, you could, and I can do it because this is still wet, you can wipe away where some of the pink is going to go. So I can do that because this is still wet, and this is what I would do with oil paint. I would sort of mark out where there's some of those lighter petals, so you can already get an idea of some of the shapes in there. It's kind of fun to do because you're not really, you're not adding any paint or anything yet, so it's sort of, you can always paint over it, but I like it. And then there's this one here, and I always pay attention to what direction the flowers are going. So this one's facing down, and then this one's going to be kind of facing away and up, which is also, adds to the whole. When you paint peony flowers, you get it's a lot of fun because there is a lot of natural, just drama with these flowers. They're just so fluffy and fun. Whereas some flowers are just more, geometric, and like you have to have every petal right or it doesn't look like the flower. I like the way these ones, you can paint them really loose and really just kind of be free with them. And so this pink one here is facing downwards. So we'll get into the details later, but there's going to be a lot of those petals kind of facing down. And then there's going to be the green in between. So just now you kind of just look at what you want to do next. And the beauty of the acrylic is this is already dry right here. So I can already sort of think about, you know, what layer I would do next. So I'm just kind of showing you. This is still wet, so I can kind of wipe away where some of those lighter petals are going to go. So now you can kind of see what I'm doing. And so the next thing is, these are going to be some sort of off-white flowers, but inside the centers of them, you can see there's quite a nice, you know, also sort of a warm pinky glow. So I'm going to just think about, you know, what I want to do with that. Maybe I'll just use a little of this Indian yellow, because that'll kind of, and you could put a little pink in there. And then later when we add the lighter off-white color to it, it'll really look good. So just kind of blocking in. These ones are going to be real loose, and they're just really, it's like little notes and big notes in a song. You've got these big notes, and then you have little notes. If you're thinking about, I guess not many people think about classical music, but that's kind of how it works. But I guess also in modern music they have that too. And then there's some little bits of light coming through, and I can just put some of that in here and there. I'm going to be painting a lot of the green over this, so some of this shining through just adds a nice kind of a glow to the painting, and warm up these pinks that are kind of more in the shadow, so it's like almost like a glaze there. And now I'm going to block in some of those greens, because I want to get some darks in before I start getting into the details. I want to get everything kind of in there and ready to go. So I've got this Viridian green here. I think I'll use that. And I can use a bit of that mixture I used initially for the background, because it has some brown and ultramarine blue in there. And I will just sort of block in. And I'm looking at the brush strokes, so I'm looking at how a lot of these leaves start out kind of thick like this, and then they go to thin. So I'm going to turn my brush as I pull down and just sort of try to do that in one stroke, sort of. And then we got another one here. And they already look very peony leafish. So, and then there's some up here. And this is sort of a petal that wraps around this flower. I'm just looking at my reference photo, and they don't have to be perfect. You're just trying to kind of establish, you know, where things are going. Some areas you will have obvious one leaf. There'll be quite a few leaves. So then there's some coming into the picture here. So I'm putting some of those ones in. Just mix a little bit of that red oxide there. And then we got this whole area here where there's a bunch of leaves. So I'm gonna just kind of put a few. I'm looking at my reference photo and trying to just put in a few of those where as I see them. And then there's those ones kind of curl up, and then there's a bunch that kind of curl in this way. And in between this flower, what's really going to make this flower stand out is these ones that kind of come down here. And this is just a brush I'm using from Michaels. It's Zen 12. I don't know, number 12. And I love these because they're like $5.99 at Michaels. So, and believe me, I don't get paid anything to tell anybody that. I know people want to know what they always want to know what brushes I'm using. And so there's another little flower there. And this flower here has some larger leaves coming down. Like that. And then there's a bunch more. Try some of this green gold color. There's a lot of lighter leaves down here, so I really like that kind of green gold color anyways, but it's just sort of to change it up down here. And then you can add a little more viridian. So you can just see I'm just kind of going pretty quickly through the different shapes and leaves that I'm seeing in the reference photo to kind of put them in there. I want to get this. There's a nice one that comes up above this flower here. They kind of frame the different flowers. So then I'm just kind of loosening up some of those edges there a bit, just combining a bit with the green. Okay, so now you've got the greens and you've got the pinks, so you're kind of starting to actually see a lot happening here, but so far everything is the paint is, really thin. I'm just sort of blocking in. And yeah, if you're new here, don't forget to follow me on Instagram and also on YouTube. I have a lot of good videos and tutorials there too. And I also teach on Patreon, so you can sign up there and learn. All right, so this is part 1 of this painting. We are going to continue on. I'm going to keep painting. I'm just letting everyone know I'm going to save it so people can work on this. And then I'm going to start next Tuesday. I'm going to do the final parts to it. And so I'm painting on a 12 by 12 canvas, but I'm doing it a little larger because once you get to this size, it's easy you could blow this up. Because it's peonies, it would be a really cool painting to do in like a 2 by 2 or a 3 foot by 3 foot canvas would look really even better. The bigger they get, the better they kind of look, these flowers. So yeah, I'm going to keep painting and working on this, and then next week I'll do the final touches. So if you come back and watch again next week, I'm also going to be teaching you how you can add the soft gel gloss and regular gel glosses to really enhance the effects of, like, it pretty much looks like oil paint when you are done, because the paint really stands up off the canvas. So just remember to squirt my paint once in a while. All right, so what I'll do now is I'm going to, I'll work on a bit of some of these lighter flowers, because they're not as kind of, this is going to be like the focal point, but these ones here are just kind of more on off to the side. So I'm just going to use, I always have my paints on this Stay Wet palette, and then I'll use something like, this is the throwaway canvas palette. So that you always have a clean surface to work on is really important. One of the most common things I see when I'm teaching beginners is they'll have all their paint on a palette like this, and they really have nowhere to mix, so all their colors start to get like mud, and then they always wonder why their paint kind of goes like mud, but it's because they're mixing all their colors into each other, you know, and so you're eventually just going to end up with, definitely it's going to start to look like mud. So I'm just going to mix, this is a little yellow ochre and white, and down here I've mixed a little bit of this transparent red oxide, and just to get some different colors of white. You can add a little bit of cobalt blue into that red oxide, and you'll get sort of this gray color. So you kind of just have to try it out on your painting and see if you like it or not. So there's a lot of kind of overlapping petals, so I'm gonna put in a few, and I can also show you when this is dry next week how to use glazing to get really nice effects on, especially on light flowers like this. You can really, it's just an easy way to bring out all the different shadow colors that and depth to it without having to do a lot of work, because you're not mixing up paint, you're using this light paint and then just putting layers on top of paint. So come back next week and I'll show you. So for now I'm just sort of getting some of these in, and then the flower down here has a little bit more of a kind of a pinky tone. And always looking at the direction of like where these flowers are headed. This one's kind of going down, and so it's sort of just like, for now, that's, you've got this real bright on top of like the dark, so you can blend it with the glazing, or I'm just going to show you with a smaller brush. You can mix up a little bit of a darker color of what's underneath there. So I'll just get some more of that Indian yellow and a little bit of that quinacridone red, and sort of kind of go with sort of a mid-tone. Maybe I'll use a little of that red oxide in there. Sort of just, blend in some of those mid-tones. You can add a little green to it, kind of neutralize it a bit more. And there's some going up here. And get a little more of that light color there. And so you can see the now this one here, I gotta get that. It sort of gets confusing where the green is and the white. You gotta get in there and really kind of reestablish what's in front and what's behind. So I'll show you that, because later that, if you don't remember to fix that, it'll look funny. So you want to make sure that, and you can fix it too when it's dry, but I just want to teach you now because you want to make sure that you get that leaf right in front again of that flower. Otherwise it's confusing when the edge doesn't really show it, what's kind of going on. So there, that's kind of puts that flower behind. And we'll work on those details some more next week. And so, and then another thing is when we get to the glazing, you'll see how when I glaze some of these edges, that'll also give them that perspective of being behind the leaves. Right now they're kind of popping out because of how bright they are. So it's harder to tell. Now in the composition, there are a few little specks of this, these white flowers sort of popping out. So I'm just going to put a few marks just to kind of carry that through the composition. And then, so for now, I'll leave those flowers, and I'm going to work on some of the pinks and so just to give you an idea of what I would do here is probably, now I can mix those here, but I'll go in and get some of this darker, this is some alizarin crimson here, and I'll go in and sort of, I want to really make sure that when I go to paint this, I want to have that inside a little bit, in some areas, a lot more shadowed and darker. So I'll just use a little bit of alizarin and really mark out where the different parts are going. And I'm looking at my reference photo while I do this. And I'm going to leave some of that pink underpaint just to create for me all those internal kind of petals that are in there. You can just sort of use the dark paint to show them off. So I'll put in some of these details that are in the flower, so that when I start working, with the lighter colors, they'll really show. So you just kind of look at your reference photo and you can kind of get an idea of where some of these darker marks are going to go. And they're going to go back over some of this green, so you can put some of those right there. So you can really have fun painting these big flowers, especially, oops, I got some of that white in there. Just kind of building the darks in there. And down here, there's a real dark edge. And I'm just using a thin layer of that quinacridone red when I do that. So we have everything we want kind of going on here, and it's all kind of blocked in, and it's taken only a half an hour to get this far. So next week I'm going to do this again, and I'm going to come on, and then I'm going to finish it off for the last half hour of this lesson. And like I say, we'll be using some of the gel mediums, and we're going to glaze these flowers. So come back next Tuesday at the same time, and we're going to finish this off. So don't forget to follow me on Instagram and YouTube, and check out my Patreon channel. And it's really great being here with all of you guys, and I look forward to painting with you again next Tuesday at the same time. Thank you.